Okay, this is stressful. Hello, everybody. We are the Tall Table, and my name's Mike.
I'm Ray.
I am DJ Zion 7.
Stay on.
Today we have a fascinating topic. We are going to be talking about the people in history or that are current, so they can still be alive or they can be passed away, but 3 people that we would like to have a dinner with. And we're going to throw out there that they're willing to talk about anything.
Okay, I like that.
You know?
Yes.
And so we're going to say why we chose those people, what we would like to talk about, and what we admire about them. So, Ray, why don't you kick us off?
How about that?
How about that, Ray? Right. Thank you so much.
So, a lot of kind of how the format we're going to go ahead and do it is we're going to do one at a time. All of mine kind of play a pivotal reason why I want to go ahead and see the mindset of each one. But the first one that I'll go ahead and kick off to you guys is going to go ahead and be, his name is Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle is basically a spiritual writer. The reason why I picked him is because...
Is he still alive?
Yes.
Okay.
He's still alive. The reason why I picked him is in some of my darkest moments, some of the things where I was uncertain about, I was able to read his books, and he kind of gave, in a sense, an enlightenment, a different way of looking at things, and kind of reprogramming my brain to say, almost in a sense, it's not that bad. It's...
So he basically gave you therapy without you going through therapy?
Yes, he gave me therapy, and it was really weird how I even came upon reading a book from him. It was literally a book that was given to me by a teacher that I kind of just, because I wasn't a huge reader at that time, she gave it to me and I just was like, all right, and I threw it like in a corner or something of that, on that end. And then it was when I first tore up my knee when I was playing ball. And I was not sure where my career was going to go to, what was I going to do, and all of that. So the only thing that I could go ahead and do is just rehab and just kind of sit there in a brace. Book, I'm not going to say basically, it didn't kind of float up at me or didn't have this special glow, but it got my attention somehow. Read the book, and come to find out, Eckhart Tolle had many different spiritual books. He was basically a bestseller in 2018 by one of his books. So therefore, I kind of really got into the thought process of different things that he was saying, and almost in the sense of kind of where it kind of ties our whole entire lingo that we ended with is live your best life. He kind of said that in one of his books, like living your best life. He's just like, live with no regret, live with, you're doing the best that you can go ahead and do at the present moment, no matter what is actually affecting you. Nice. So my first one was, I would love to go ahead and actually have him at my dinner table with 2 others that you will later figure out.
So all of your guests are going to be at the same dinner table?
Yes.
Wow.
I would like to go ahead, because the thing is, all of mine they're different, they're completely different personalities, different brains.
Okay.
So therefore, I think it would be really, really intriguing dinner, from start to finish, to kind of see what each person would actually bring to the conversation.
Okay.
So.
Well, my first person would be, I'm still been on the fence because I've been tossing 5 or 6 people. Mine are mostly musicians because music has had such a big pull on my life. Like when I was down or no matter what I was going through, I could always listen to music and I always felt great, even to this day. So I say my first one would be Prince Rogers Nelson. The reason I say that is kind of like with you, when I was younger, it was something about Prince's music that just attracted me. I mean, it was just Prince and all, because he was a short guy. He was like a musical genius. He wore high heels. Being a gay kid at that time, I really didn't have anybody to kind of look up to. And I'm not saying that Prince was gay, because Prince really wasn't gay. But it was just that he didn't mind wearing high heels. He didn't let anything define him. He was just Prince. He dressed very flamboyantly.
Yes, he did.
And it's just like...
Eccentric, have you?
Very eccentric.
Game blouses.
But his music was just so incredible. I mean, this is when he was still young, but he was writing music for everyone, even at that age. And it was just... I had a big poster of him on my wall. I have one over my bed.
Is it the Purple Rain one?
Yes, the Purple Rain one.
With the motorcycle?
With the motorcycle.
Exactly.
Everyone had that poster.
It was.
Everyone knows that one.
Every Prince fan.
Yes. And that's when I honestly got the chance to see Purple Rain. I used to watch it like, it was at the theaters for a while, so every Saturday I would drive up just to watch it.
How many times did you watch Purple Rain?
Oh my God.
Oh, hell.
Probably in my teenage years, about 20 times.
He thought he was Prince.
It wasn't that nigga Prince. It was just there was no one out like Prince. I mean, again, he just broke so many boundaries. I mean, and that's why I kind of like fell in love with not just the music, just him as a person. I mean, he was always just he was just a good artist.
What would you want to talk about? Because he's sitting there.
I would want to know what. I actually would like to know what happened in the final hours, because it's like it was such a shock when he died. I mean, of all the artists that I thought would, some artists I think were going to pass away early.
Yeah,
Prince was one of the people that I never thought would.
You never heard about him doing anything wrong or anything bad.
No drug things, no anything. So I think my last things would be my things would be like, what was
that, a fentanyl?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was. It was accidental.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I think we would talk about music. We talk about some of the artists that he's worked with. Who was his favorite artist to work with? The only thing I feel with Prince that sometimes his sound couldn't adapt. His music taste or sound didn't adapt over the years like many other artists did.
Right.
His just didn't, and I wish that he was more adaptive.
Correct.
Yeah, more current. Yes, exactly.
Okay,
That's mine.
that's a good one.
How about that?
Purple Rain. Let me find out. I go in your closet and you got some needles up in there.
He got the Purple Rain poster in the pipe.
Blouse.
Huh?
The blouse.
The blouses with the long things. I think one of mine, out of the three that we're gonna pick, is gonna be Jim Carrey.
Oh.
And I've always kind of admired Jim Carrey ever since I was growing up. I think his movie, When Nature Calls, the one where he goes out and he has to climb the giant thing and save the village from the great white bat or whatever. I thought that was one of the funniest movies ever. That was Chicago. I hate bats.
I remember when he's
Hit by the
pointing at
spears.
the-
Yeah.
Tommy Davis.
Yeah, he always made me laugh when I was a kid, and even in like some of my darkest moments, I always turned to Jim Carrey. And then as I grew older, I started realizing that he had so much more to himself as a spirit, as a person, as a character, because he does a lot of different roles, from the Number 23 to Man on the Moon. He did the Truman Show, which when you look at it is kind of a sad movie in a way. Like, it's got funny parts, but the Truman Show is kind of a sad movie.
Yeah.
It's about this dude that's trapped in this place that he thinks is real, that everybody's watching his life. And I later learned that he's also a very spiritual person himself. Like, he did, he was going to go do a movie about Terence McKenna, which was a known philosopher, and he's like a plant medicine kind of guy that holds PhDs. Is pretty positive he does. But he took like some spiritual journeys, taking like magic mushrooms out in the forest to kind of re-enlighten with himself and get back to the root of things. He did what people call was the heroic dose, where you're supposed to take like 5 grams and kind of go sit out in nature and he kind of experienced a new way of how things kind of are. And I didn't know that about Jim Carrey. A lot of people just think, he's funny and he comes out the rhino's butt and he does all these things, but there's so much more to Jim Carrey as a person and as an activist. It's just somebody that's here in our experience, trying to make a difference for different things. So I think he would be a really cool person to just sit and talk to, because he's so dynamic. Like, he can be funny, he can be serious, and he can play so many roles.
Very serious about topics.
Yeah. And people just look at him like, I think maybe some other comedians where you see Jim Carrey and you just want to laugh. Kind of like when we were watching the It movie and we saw the comedian, all the roles weren't funny, all the moments weren't funny. So some people may not think Jim Carrey's like a serious guy, or you can't take away anything from him, but I think I would ask him just a lot about, his views on life and the things that he's been through and how he's had to adapt from, Saturday Night Live to doing serious roles to just life in general, and how he navigates in his point of views. I think it would just be a really cool conversation to have. We'd laugh and be serious all at the same kind of time. I think everybody knows Jim Carrey too, so seeing a different part of him would be like, whoa, this is crazy shit.
I used to watch a lot of Jim Carrey movies way back, but has he released anything recently?
I don't think so. I mean, I remember seeing a short that he did on YouTube that was like, I don't know if it was towards a movie or something, but he's just out there walking in the desert, and he's dressed like a bum, and he's got a hat on that says NASA or something like that.
For some reason, I thought he had a show on HBO.
Yeah, I can't remember what the short was, but I don't think he's had any recent things that anybody really knows about. Yeah, he's been off for a minute now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just thought he had a show or something.
No.
All right.
All right, Mike.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Mike?
So my choice is President Barack Obama. That's my first choice. I just think he would be such a fascinating person. I've always admired him since I first learned about him. When you look at the fact that he's gone from being born to a regular middle-class family to going all the way through, going to the Ivy League schools, doing everything that he's done, and then to become elected president. And he always handled it with such high honor as far as I was concerned. And he always comes across as real. When I've seen him interacting with other people, he always comes across as just a regular person. So I think knowing that he would be willing to talk about anything, because that's the circumstances that we're having dinner, there's just so many questions that I would ask him about his, some about his past, but mostly about his views on the current affairs. Because he never talks about them. He never talks about Trump. I mean, he does without mentioning his name. But I would just want to see what he saw after Trump, and where he saw us going, and where he hoped that we were going. So
I hope up.
Yeah, hope up.
We're like at the bottom now. I don't think that we can go anywhere but up.
Yeah, we would definitely be going up. But well, that depends on who is the next president.
Yeah, it's very true.
But so that's my first one. It's an easy one.
That was your first?
Uh-huh.
Oh, so I started first.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going back to me really, really quickly.
Mine was pretty quick.
Very much so.
One more note.
He did take mine, though, just so you know.
Yeah,
That was,
okay.
I did 5, so we're going to stay with 3. But to roll back into mine, I don't need no deep breaths. I don't need anything else like that, especially from you.
Oh,
but
boy.
my next one is going to be The Rock.
People's champ.
And this is what we get. And the Rock that I would go ahead and definitely get is the Rock that basically people get to see on his Instagram, the family man. Not always the people's eyebrow. I will go ahead and take that because that's part of his persona and stuff like that.
Hopefully he would drop that for your dinner.
Well, I feel as if the Rock that I would for the dinner, I wouldn't want him to say he's going to do a people's elbow on somebody in the dinner and stuff like that.
I don't think he would.
But I don't either. The reason why I like the Rock is because through his struggle, it runs a little bit of parallel lines to mine. I mean, he started out, with, of course, in Hawaii, and his dad was basically on the road, so he wasn't there too much, and his mom was there to go ahead and basically care for him. So basically, all odds were not really in his favor to go ahead and be successful.
It's also hard to follow in someone else's footsteps. Because his dad being the pro.
To be honest with you, if you really look at his thing, he was not even looking to go ahead and be a wrestler at that point.
Yes, I know. He wanted to be a football player, right?
He didn't know what he was a bad kid.
Oh, yes.
He was a problematic kid, and I think what happened was football basically gave him that sense of, okay, I need to go ahead and simmer down and focus myself if I really want to go ahead and do better. Hence the reason why $7. I mean, you start talking about the $7. It gets later on into that, but the fact of the matter is, he became very well. He did very well at football. Got recruited by the University of Miami. Played at Miami. Tore up his knee as well too. He had aspirations of going to the pro level. Could not because of tearing up his knee. Went overseas to try to play to go ahead and really fulfill that aspect of being in the NFL, playing. Didn't work. Came back here, and that's then when the $7 came into play because he didn't know what he wanted to go ahead and do. He basically had $7 in his pocket to figure out what he was going to go ahead and do. Went into wrestling. He went into wrestling, and his career basically stimulated from that. But a kid that started out in Hawaii, that his dad was on the road, where it really wasn't his life as much as he should be, is now this iconic figure that we look at this point in time. And not only that, because his dad wasn't there. A lot of guys and a lot of people kind of say, I didn't have my dad there for me or whatever like that. So you kind of innately become one of two things. One, you become that wholesome, great family guy or the other end is just like, you're a dirtbag because your dad was not there. So I seen on looking at him, he's big time family man. He has like 2 or 3 daughters. He has another daughter from a previous marriage. So, and he works very well with his ex-wife, who is basically part of his management team. So I feel as if from the struggle that he went and, what was the pivotal moment for him where he said, okay, wrestling is where it is that I'm going to go ahead and do to make my name. Was there any conversations from someone? What was like the mindset of him just saying, okay, this is what I'm going to go ahead and do and see how this goes, to the transition to my last component of dealing with Hollywood? Because Hollywood, the thing about it is he wanted to be The Rock, but Hollywood basically said they wanted him to be Dwayne Johnson. So that's a huge step at that point to go ahead and go against the grain of Hollywood.
Drop everything that he came from.
Yes, to go ahead and go to that end. And he did try it with Dwayne Johnson when he played.
His first few movies, he was Dwayne Johnson.
Outside of Scorpion King, but
yes,
after that, yes, it was Dwayne Johnson. He lost all the muscle and everything else like that. Wasn't getting the ideal roles, and then looking at his biography and stuff like that, he basically said that I was not going to go ahead and conform to Hollywood. Hollywood was then going to go ahead and conform to me, and he started getting all of these roles. Fast and Furious start coming in. He was in the one with Billy Bob Thornton, so he got a lot of great roles that kept his masculinity of him being a big guy, but in the same breath, he actually showed what type of talent he actually was. He was a talented person. He could act. He could remember scripts.
He can act.
I mean, he's been in a lot of different things, from Funny with Kevin Hart and Jumanji to, the Fast and the Furious to a spinoff that he just actually did. So, it's kudos to him, and then how dynamic he is now. He's getting ready to open up a new thing with the Olympia. The Olympia has been the huge format for all bodybuilding and stuff like that. He's now going to go ahead and give it a run of opening up his own platform for body outside of the Olympia. That's going to go ahead and kind of give them a run. So, he has his hands in a lot of different things, has a tequila. So, outside of that, him being a businessman. So, I would love to go ahead and definitely have a sit down and pick his brain from start to finish of where he started from to where he's at now.
That's a really good one.
So that's a good one.
So that's me. So and then again with mine, I kind of try to go ahead and give a different dynamic of a lot of different people. So that way, kind of how the tall table is, we have a lot of different thought processes that we do with different things. So therefore, I'm one of those ones. I want to soak everything in and kind of learn from each culture, each diversity, each way of thinking. So that way, when I talk to the next person, it doesn't seem like I'm ignorant or I can't go ahead and talk, or somebody just looks at me like can talk about football, or I can just talk about MMA and stuff like that. So that's my guy. My second.
My second person would be my grandfather.
All right.
Jay Harden Sr.
Is he still alive?
No, he's dead.
He's dead. Okay.
The reason I felt like I would love to have a sit down with my grandfather is because I felt like he passed away when I was very young. He did pass away when I was very young. He passed away when I was 13. And there's so many things that I would have loved to talk to him about as I was growing up. And I just feel like I had father figures. I had great father figures and uncles and even good friends. But I felt like when my grandfather died, it's like part of my lineage died. Or it's just like, of all my family, he was a really, really good, honorable man. And I just felt like when he passed, in our family, a lot of that died because I just didn't feel like a lot of people couldn't be like he was. He was always giving. He was always kind. If he had whatever he had, he would share. And I mean, he's just he was an incredible person.
So he was a very good model for you.
I think sometimes whenever I'm people always like, well, what would that person do? I mean, in the back of my head, if I was going to do something really bad, or thought about something, it was like my grandfather would not like that.
Yeah.
So he was kind of always in the back of my head. But he was just kind and giving. And I felt like because I did spend time with him in his last days, he was in a nursing home, and I would we had this little blue truck. And after my homework was done, after certain things were done I had to do, I would take this old blue truck and I would drive up and I would just sit there.
Because he was in
How old
a
were you?
nursing home, right?
Yes.
How old were you?
I was like 14, 15.
This is in Georgia.
This is in Georgia. You can do that.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a minute. Go ahead. All right, I got this.
I'm serious. It's like, I think it was like I was like 13, 14, something
Okay.
like that. But I was able to drive a
Right.
truck, and I would go to the nursing home where he was, and I would just pop in this room, and we would just sit there, we would just talk. And you know, he had a stroke, so he could only talk out of like side of his mouth, but I could understand everything he was saying. And then he would just like whenever I had to go, he would always take this hand and he would just squeeze it with his good hand. And it wasn't a handshake; it was just that squeeze.
Okay.
And sometimes I know it sounds crazy, but sometimes I feel like I want to feel it, or I can feel like I can feel it sometimes. But it's just he was just a good person.
Yeah.
And when good people pass away early, it is something that you take their memories with you. I mean, you just take it with you.
It's true.
And that's the person I would like to sit down with today and just I would love to introduce them to you guys and just tell them these are my incredible friends and my hubby, and he would love you all. I don't think my grandfather would have had any problem with me being gay because my grandfather was he just loved everybody. It didn't matter white, black, blue, green.
So that wasn't a conversation you guys ever had?
No, because he was only 13.
Yeah.
13, gotcha.
Yeah. But I just know that he would not have had a problem with it at all.
I got you.
So that's my number 2.
Okay.
Number 2.
Nice.
Who was your number 2?
My number 2.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
Oh no, I'm kidding. Because he's always number 1. No, my number 2 would be Salvador Dali. He's a famous artist, and he lived in the earlier part of the 19th century. I think he died around 1960s or something around that time. Actually, I think 1989, if I'm not mistaken. There's a few museums of him, and he's known for creating very interesting and kind of psychedelic art where he would take drugs and he would just... A lot of his art was kind of melted through, and it was just very abstract and kind of realism in a way, because he would combine realism and abstract in a form of way that it just kind of made your mind bend, and it was almost like a lot of his art is optical illusions. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen his art, or if you guys have ever seen his art, but if you haven't, definitely look it up, and you'll be like, whoa, this is like some trippy stuff. I mean, you would have to be on drugs to draw something like this. And there's like a famous quote. Somebody would ask Salvador Dali, like, what kind of drugs do you take to draw this? And he was like, drugs? I don't take drugs. I am drugs. So that was basically one of the things that he said that he was known for. And I would just sit down and I'd like to talk to him about his kind of his process in art and what motivates him to draw the things that he draws, or if he's just trying to share his experience of what he sees with us, or the way that he sees the world with us, and the way that he's able to do it so flawlessly and make you just like, wow, this is amazing. Because a lot of people, it's hard to share an experience that only you can see with other people, and to put it on paper or even music. I think that's what artists and musicians do, that they're talented in a way that they can share that experience with somebody else. And Salvador Dali just has a very unique and awesome way, to me, that he does it. And I think a lot of people agree, because like I said, you can check out his museums, and he didn't die that long ago too, so he's kind of an artist from our era. Gotcha. In a way, whereas you look at somebody like Picasso that was born way back when, and his art is awesome too, don't get me wrong, but it's just so long ago. Whereas Salvador Dali is like, I was born 10 years earlier, maybe I could have seen him in person or something like that. But I think that's my number 2, yeah.
That's a
That's
good one, too.
really good. Yeah. I really would like to know more about him.
Yeah. I think the museum is up in Tampa, actually. If I'm not mistaken. There's
Yes,
yeah.
it is. It's in Ybor City, I want to say.
Yeah.
Ybor or Clearwater, one of the two, but he does, yes.
All right, well, my number 2 guest is,
Please don't name the one.
it was my childhood hero.
Walt Disney?
Me?
Yes, yeah. My childhood hero was Walt Disney. And I started watching The Wonderful World of Disney when I was a kid, not knowing that he'd already passed away. Children don't understand things like that.
I didn't know that either for a long time, by the way.
Yeah.
Even when I was growing
Even
up,
when
I
you
was
were
like,
growing
I
up,
thought
yeah.
Walt Disney was alive.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
I did. It just hit me like, damn, I said the same
It was kind of odd,
thing.
yes.
It's like, I'm going to go to Disney World and see Walt.
Well, yeah.
But when I, as a child, learned about him and everything that he went through to start his studio and then to plan out a park that no one had ever heard of before. I mean, prior to Walt Disney, there was no such thing as a theme park.
Wow.
Or even the concept of actual theming, to buildings and restaurants and things like that. All
Did they
these
have
things
circuses back then?
They had circuses, yes. They had circuses and they had fairs. But they were like the fairs of today. They were dirty. You never knew who was going to be operating the attraction. You didn't know if it was safe or not. And he wanted to build somewhere safe for his own kids to go to. But he's the one that started my thirst for the future. I've always been fascinated with things that are coming down the road. And that was something by his Tomorrowland sort of part of the Magic Kingdom, and then Epcot, what that was all supposed to be, this city of the future. Just as a kid, I was always thinking about things like that, and it's because of my exposure to Walt. And then the things I would want to talk about, I would have every video and photo I could, and I've always thought it would be great to take him to a theme park now, to take him to one of his current parks.
And see if he would be proud of the park where
well,
it is.
to see, and I think he would be. I think he would be amazed by technology. Like, for example, just the newest Disney films, for example, the newest Disney animated films, computer generation. I mean, all these concepts that we now have. I know he would be so fascinated with it. So I would want to share this world that we now have, due to him, that we now have. And I think he would be a fascinating dinner guest.
That definitely Orlando profits from hugely, because like if it wasn't for Disney, chances are there would not be a Universal.
We wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, that would be cool. And how blown away he probably would be. Yeah.
Isn't he frozen?
No, that's just a legend. He's happily buried.
I thought they froze him, like Demolition Man, like in the cryogenic freezing chamber.
Yes,
he was like one of the people they were going to bring back.
That's the rumor, but no, he was.
Maybe it's just a Futurama episode. It's frozen. He's there.
If you would have said yes, I'd been like, where is this?
The chamber where they freeze all the important people, right?
I used to work
back.
Yeah,
Here we go.
I used to work for Disney, and that was one of the questions we were often asked.
What was that?
It's frozen.
Yeah,
It's like a conspiracy.
He made that area 57, area
51.
51. Yeah, just sitting here. Okay,
It's like the Bermuda Triangle. If we all go, it can't take us all.
Yes, I'm not gonna butcher up. I like that, but
So we're going to go to Ray's number 3.
I'm just gonna sit here and quiet because I wasn't ready. No, my number 3. It was hard because when we start talking about this, it was 5, and I shot out a bunch of different ones. But my number 3, I think, is going to go ahead and be. It would have to be. I've been torn about it. Will Smith.
Yes.
I think that Will Smith, and a lot of these, I want to say a lot of these guys, the people that I have mentioned, I can kind of relate to. So I guess that is the biggest reason why I picked them, and just see how successful they have been as people. Will Smith, as we know, West Philadelphia, when we first saw him from Christmas, born and raised.
On the playground.
Yes. Most of my days. All right. Yes. But even before that, he was, a rap artist, and then his rap career, basically, him and DJ Jazzy Jeff basically had huge success, which stimulated the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
To take that platform and just take it to the level that he's taking it, that's insane.
And not only that, and this is not about race or anything else like that, but a black family that was, some of the iconic black families that were there. It was basically the Cosby Show, Family Matters. Then it died off for a long period of time, and then all of a sudden you start seeing the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So white, black, Chinese, and indifferent, they were just like, oh, Carlton, oh, Will Smith, or oh, Will, and all the rest of that stuff. So
I love the Fresh Prince.
Yes.
And it was a different dynamic, too, than Family Matters, because, I didn't like Family Matters that much, but when you watch the Fresh Prince, I was like, oh, this is a little different.
Yeah,
it was different.
You were able to relate to it. I think I was able to relate to it because I wasn't quite urban, but I wasn't quite middle class, so I was at hood. So I was right there in the middle where he was trying to go ahead and figure out his way of what he was going to go ahead and do, and still stay true to where he came from.
Do you think it's a fair thing to say that he opened the door for rappers wanting to be actors?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I feel as if that rappers at some point, most of the time, had a...
So Ray was rudely interrupted by the camera going off.
Yeah.
So we are now back.
So
Fuck technology.
so with that being said, you know, Alfonso Rivera was supposed to be the person that they thought was going to go ahead and be the shooting rocket, the shooting star as far as acting and stuff, because he came from Silver Spoon as a star, a
had a
kid, and
history.
he actually went up. So with Will Smith coming onto the scene as an actor in playing a main character
With
in the
no
first
acting background.
Zero.
None.
Zero.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things. It was basically, I mean, he was learning on the go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when he was actually casted for The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which I thought was huge.
Someone took a major gamble on him.
I will say this. I think that he helped the door stay open. I feel like Tupac. I feel like Ice Cube. Ice-T.
All those are after. They're
No, they
all-
were not.
Are they
No,
around the
they
same
were
time?
not. They
No,
were before.
well, the thing
For
about
acting?
Yes.
Well, the thing about it is we got to kind of look at it like this. They were actors in movies. They
In movies.
they weren't.
Okay,
They
I
weren't
see what you're
they
saying.
weren't
They were in movies, they weren't in sitcoms.
Because the thing about it is when you start talking about movies, poetic justice, and some of those different things like that.
And that was
it's
all
used-
before The Fresh
Yes,
Prince?
it was.
Okay.
Yeah. When you talk about that, they're rated R movies, so they actually got
I
to
see,
be
yeah.
stay within the character of what it is, which is kind of that hood. That
That's
hood
true.
guy,
That's
you know, in Poetic Justice, he was a mailman, but Tupac had hood in it. You know,
Yeah.
he was able to go ahead
They
and
never
do that.
reached Middle America, whereas Will Smith
He
was all over
reached
Middle America.
yes, he was getting there, and he was opening up the eyes and saying, "There's a different realm of black, almost in a sense."
There's white, black, and black, black. I'm just saying it how it
In the
is.
households.
I'm just saying
No,
it
it
how
is.
it is.
It is.
That can be a negative thing, but yes.
Yes, it is.
It can be, but it's like that's what we always say. We have regular blacks, and then we have threatening blacks. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that if you would have put any certain people in that role as Fresh Prince, I don't feel it would have done as well as Will Smith. If you would have put,
He's a naturally funny guy.
he's a naturally,
I mean,
yes,
he's
he's
naturally
funny.
But the thing is that's the thing. Once again, no one knew how naturally funny he was because the only person that we knew him to be was a rapper with DJ Jazzy Jeff. So you know, I agree. There's you got the hood black and you got the the vanilla middle of the road black. It's just I guess upbringing, culture and all of that different stuff that basically
That was the Fresh Prince. The Fresh Prince was your hood black
that stimulated
We're
into
going to
something.
send you to this family.
Yes.
over here.
Yes, that's basically the premise of
The premise of the show. And the thing was I had a huge I was so impressed by the fact of this kid that everyone thought he was not going to be able to do something of the magnitude and then did it and had running seasons for what they had like 7-8 seasons of the Fresh.
Plus, he was making movies during his off time.
But that was what it was because when I'm going to it was that it's hard to go ahead and have a re-up on NBC each and every year being that prime time slot
Well,
that
they
they
were
had.
very high ratings, though. They were a very popular show.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
for you to go ahead and continuously stimulate those high ratings each
Yeah.
year, that's an awesome thing to go ahead
Yeah.
and do. But where he really took me to the next level was, yes, absolutely. When he was doing this, he was starting to get movie roles. He was starting to go ahead
Independence
and
Day.
Huh?
Independence
Day.
Yes,
Definitely
that's
did. And then from there he was a family man in the end of everything else. He basically was married very young. He had a child. It didn't work out. Then shortly after he got with Jada. Where I find him outside of everything else of all of his movies that he's done, because he's a great actor, he really is. But just for the fact of he was able to go ahead and marry someone that was an actress, and they were able to go ahead and hold it together for over 15 to 20 years. There's a lot of things that you hear about their relationship and this and that and the other,
Which they've said is not true.
which is not. They had to finally address it because what happens is. So it was almost one of those things where everybody was looking for some sort of chink in his armor and her armor. And
Because
her
he's so
armor.
perfect
He's so
that-
perfect. They were
How
looking.
can they be
Shut
that?
up, man! You said your thing. Okay. So supposedly, so we can get the that nothing actually happened. So therefore,
Yeah.
for them to resoundingly to get through.
You got proof?
Where's the other kid at?
There's
Right.
no proof otherwise.
Where's the
Exactly. There's no proof otherwise.
Where's the other child at?
Okay.
Which one, Jaden?
One from the other.
Well, that's the thing. He reconnected with him here within the last year and a half to 2 years.
Because you never hear about him.
You see him now. He includes them in the family and stuff like that.
I've never seen him.
What
I guess I'm
happened
just
was
behind.
he looks just like Jaden, just a taller version of him and thing.
He's in all the family photos.
What's his
now.
name?
When they do a,
Do you guys know?
Oh, the oldest kid?
The oldest
the
kid.
oldest son.
That's by another lady, though.
Yeah,
That's what I was saying.
That's what-
Like I was like, where's he?
His issue was with that they had just a bad relationship because how Will left the relationship, it wasn't the most idealistic. So the kid had basically bad feelings towards his dad. But they opened up and rekindled that relationship. So anything that you see with Jaden and all of the rest of his family and stuff, he's right there in the pictures, Christmas and everything else like that.
Okay.
So, and I think the last thing that really is huge for me is now who Will has turned himself into now. He's not even really... A lot of people say what movie he has a Gemini Man that's getting ready to go ahead and come out here soon, but I kind of found it interesting what his life is now, the different places he goes and sees, the people that he's around. Like he was
He's a content creator now. He does a lot of Instagram stuff.
Yes,
Yeah,
content creator with the Kiki Challenge. He was that one that they had one of those iconic ones where he was doing.
Yeah,
he
you
was
talked about that on one of the videos we did
Exactly.
actually.
So he's been traveling to Egypt. He's done this thing. So he's basically living his best life with what he's doing, but still able to hustle and make movies and all of these different things like that and juggle family life. So the thing about it is I pay homage and I pay huge respect to that because the thing is there's so much, and I kind of feel as if like he's gotten to a place in himself where he's like he's okay not worrying about what Hollywood is saying, what other people are saying. He's just basically doing.
He's been there, done that. I mean, he's been the top #1 Hollywood star.
But a lot of people get stuck on that though, and they
Right, and I'm
continuously
saying
do
that's
that.
what I was just agreeing with you.
Oh,
that
okay.
He doesn't care anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't care anymore.
He doesn't have to be the
And-
#1
and
movie star.
You're right, and the thing is, anything now he's touching on other ends, like you saw on the Instagram, certain things like that, people are still intrigued by it. I'm more intrigued by seeing him now, what he's doing now, than knowing his movie. Now it keeps him relevant. Seeing that whole thing. So when Gemini Man does come out, we all saying, okay, let's go ahead and see that. And with that being said, but I just kind of, like I said, love him as a person. I love him as what he's done. I love the fact that the family man he's done, his business sense, and like I said, supporting Jada on a lot of her endeavors that she's done, because a lot of people can go ahead and get very, very jealous at that point. So Will Smith will top out my third person for my dinner. Unfortunately, I would like to go ahead, like I said early on, I would not want to go ahead and have it individualized. I would like to go ahead and just have all three of the people there.
I'd like to offer you a different view on that.
Okay.
I would like you to think about having a dinner with each of them individually, because if they're all there together, you might get lost in the conversation.
I want to get lost. I want to get lost in the conversation because not only
would
am I
pick their brain,
not only am I would I be picking their brain, but maybe someone else is going to go ahead and bring in something that I don't know, and a question that could be stimulated. Like Will could be like, Rock, let me ask you a question. When you're up there doing these movies now at this point in time, is it that you're getting all of the profits to this and that and other? So things that I wouldn't even know to think to ask. I would be in awe with singularly having that one actor with me, but I kind of feel as if I've constructed three great people that their interaction would just be I'd just be sitting there like a kid in a candy store, like, what's he gonna say? What's he gonna say? Okay, I got something to say. Can I ask you this? And I can go ahead and throw that out there.
it's a nice long dinner.
Yes. We start at 4:30.
Yeah. Tons to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about.
7 course meal.
Yes, but I get that. It's just I kind of just look at it like I just like being in the room with a lot of, I won't say star power, but a lot of people that have a lot of different information that they give and a lot of different personal growth that they could go ahead and actually bring in at one time. So that's my 3.
Yeah.
Well, my third kind of plays into my other 2, and I would love to have all 3 of mine at the table at the same time. The reason I say that I would love to have all 3 is because my grandfather and I used to share some of my moments, and my third person is Stan Lee. The reason
Marvel character, Marvel writer.
Oh,
Stan Lee. Okay.
Because the reason that I say it would be great to have all 3, the reason it would be great to have, because I remember taking my comic books to a nursing home with my granddad.
Okay.
And I would go through comic books and say, this is why I like this comic book, our Spider-Man comic book.
Who's your favorite superhero? Just so you know. In 1 and 2.
That's really hard. It is.
1 or 2? Give me your top 3 then, real quick.
Spider-Man.
Okay.
Wolverine.
Okay. Thor. Captain America.
Won't be Thor.
Captain America.
Won't be Captain
Not
America.
really. He just likes the actor.
I just like the actor.
Iron Man.
No, Iron Man was until the Iron Man movies. Iron Man was my least favorite hero. Period. I'm gonna say Gambit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But the reason I would love to have my dinner with Stanley, my grandfather, and Prince is because I used to have a Walkman. I would take my Walkman to the nursing home, and I'd be like, "Hey, Granddad, check this out. This is Prince." Da 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 da. And again, I was sharing these things with my grandfather. So having a dinner with all 3 of these would be just like the funnest dinner I could possibly have.
Right.
I mean, I could sit there sitting. I could see myself sitting on the floor while his bed was right there, and I would sit on the floor and we would just talk about the comic books and what I did for school and all that kind of stuff. But comic books and music, he knew those things that I liked.
Right.
What would you want to talk about with Stan Lee?
Oh, some of his creations. What was his favorite creation? Who was his favorite Marvel character? Which was Spider-Man, I believe. It was just to pick his brain. I mean, that would be the brain to pick.
Yeah.
I mean,
Look at all the world that's come out of him.
Well, just like what you were saying about Disney, and I was like, it's so funny. Walt had no idea that in 2019 he would own Marvel, and it's just like he owns ABC. I mean, his company. Walt didn't have any idea when he thought of the theme park so many years ago that it would have this impact. And look at the impact that it has had.
Yeah, that's why I would want to show it to him.
Yeah, and it's like the Marvel, just for Stan Lee to know that he made $1 billion off Endgame. I mean, come on.
You know what's nice is that he lived so long.
A long time to
That he was able to
see some
it.
of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see how you would want to. I mean, just that private conversation, being like, okay, with Marvel where it is right now, what is it that you dislike and what is it that you do? Because they gave him cameos and stuff, and he had to stay happy.
Right.
So you know,
like I would ask him what was his favorite cameo.
yeah.
And just like every time you saw Stan Lee, he was never that old man because he just seems like he was always having fun in the cameos. Even when he was doing stuff around town, I mean, he just seemed like he was always having fun. He never just seemed like I think that's why I liked him so much. And I loved his comics. I had stacks and stacks of comics all on the floor, all everywhere.
Yeah.
So
like
that's
that.
my 3.
So Stanley,
That's a good one.
I like those 3. Nice round 3.
Nice.
You guys, Prince just walking through your house. Okay. They're on.
My third one. I was sitting here thinking on who I was gonna do, so I guess I'm gonna go ahead and pick Graham Hancock, and he's actually a famous British writer and journalist, and he kind of dives into historical things like ancient Egypt and pseudoscientific stuff and beliefs like that, and he's written a couple books like Chariot of the Gods and
He was the writer of Chariot of the Gods.
Yeah.
That's a major book.
yeah, it's a huge book, and he dives a lot into spirituality and consciousness and what the I think he wrote another book called Ark of the Covenant, where it's like people are trying to find the lost Ark, which is supposed to be this artifact that's buried beneath somewhere in Africa or Egypt, I think somewhere like that. Egypt is in Africa, but yeah, I think he would just be a really good, awesome person to sit down and talk to and bounce ideas off. And he's had a lot of different experiences and gone to a lot of different places. And just, I'd like to pick his brain and see what kind of experiences he's had versus the kind of experiences that I have, and what we could collectively come together and maybe try to like figure some shit out, or just talk about different things that maybe some other people wouldn't want to talk about. Just like I don't know, other consciousness type stuff, spiritual things that are going on with ancient Egypt and the truth behind the pyramids and the Sphinx. Like, I just find that all fascinating. Like, for a long time, I know he was one of the people that unearthed that the Sphinx is actually older than Egyptians used to actually think. The Sphinx, people used to think was like 6,000 years old, but it turns out it's a lot older than that. It's actually like 12,000 years old. So it was there before the Egyptian times, and a lot of people, they didn't believe that. And he was one of the people that, was a big push towards that. And until a site called Göbekli Tepe was found, where they found like huge monuments, because that was the big debate for a long time, that there was no huge monuments like the Sphinx that were ever unearthed like 6,000 years ago. So when they found this place called Göbekli Tepe, which is like a 12,000-year-old city, they found these other huge monuments, and that was kind of like,
Where is it? Where are they?
I was about to ask.
I can't remember where Göbekli Tepe is right now off the top of my head. So if I said something, I'd probably be lying. But I know it could be somewhere in Europe. I think it's in Turkey, actually. And it actually, a farmer stumbled upon it. He was farming the grounds, and he hit something with his foot, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" So he starts digging, and all of a sudden there's this humongous freaking city with this huge artifacts that are 12,000 years old, and archaeologists can't deny that anymore. So it kind of brings it back to a place where he thinks that the Sphinx was buried underwater, and that's why a lot of the damage is done. So it's just really interesting stuff about our history,
About our past.
and our past, and where it all maybe kind of centers into, and just ancient artifacts. And I don't know, I find a lot of that interesting, so I think he would be an awesome person to just sit there and pick his brain and talk about things like that, because it would just be like, whoa, no, this is crazy. It's just interesting stuff for me to find. So that would be rounding up my my third person.
I like that. I mean, the people that you talk, I need to be looking them up, because I'm serious.
Well, my number 3 guest ties into my number 2, and that was that Walt Disney was always fascinated by the future and where we would be. And so my third number guest is my third number guest.
My third number
My
three.
number 3 guest. That's how my brain
I wasn't
works.
even going to correct you because you were like, I didn't say that.
My brain mixes words up. But, my number 3 guest would be Elon Musk, because it would be...
Hint, he's looking to go ahead and probably get a Tesla.
I am getting a Tesla. I will have a Tesla. It's not just the cars.
And a
I
brain
mean,
chip.
he has his hands in so many different things,
SpaceX.
especially space. But knowing that we could talk about anything, I would definitely want to find out about all of the stuff that's behind the doors, because we only see the stuff after they've been released. And I would want to see what are the newest models coming out, what's the space program going to be like, because these are all things that he has hundreds of scientists and engineers working on now today. So to find out all these things that are coming out soon or within the next 15, 20 years, I would be soaking up every little word that this man said. So he's a current Walt Disney to me. He's very much that if you can dream it, you can do it sort of attitude. And that's the same attitude that I've always admired. I've applied it to my own life. I have used it, and I think he would be a fascinating guest.
Oh, that's really good.
Elon's a big believer in the simulation theory that we're all in. Actually, I don't know if you've ever read into that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's a big believer that we're just all in a simulation right now, kind of a matrix. He's like one of the huge pushers for that.
I've never known that about him. Well, he would be able to tell me about that when we write that.
I say that he's this generation's Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Yes,
He's the
yeah,
real
yeah,
Tony
very
Stark.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Without
now-
the weapons.
Yes. Okay,
That's
so
all you know.
so now that we said the 3 people, name, and this I want to give each one of you 1 minute to say this though, the 1 minute answer. Who would you never let come to your table?
Oh, that's easy.
Never let anything.
I got mine.
Really?
Yes.
And
That's
we
easy.
can repeat it in case you have the same person that you would never,
Never let sit at
ever have at your dinner table.
I would say Hitler.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was thinking that too, but I don't know. I would have a conversation with him. I mean,
D-Ron.
It
Mine would
doesn't
be,
have to
mine
be
would
a
be,
fact.
Hit, mine would be Hitler.
Okay. Mine was gonna be Trump, but I know yours gonna be Trump.
No, we can have the same person.
I was gonna say Trump.
Okay.
Yeah, can't even say president.
I just like
I love Hitler though.
Yeah.
I would Hitler would never come at my table either.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any. Like, I'd give anybody a chance to talk, like just to see what their mind is like.
I just feel like with
Like, I
Trump,
don't.
We know what his mind is like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's
Yes.
doing more damage to the world, not just the United States, but to the world in general.
So,
that I
like,
would
wait.
never host this person.
So, D-Ron, let me just understand. You knowing what he did, the reasons why he did it,
I'd sit there and ask him, what the fuck is wrong with you?
It's in his book.
It's in his book.
It's in his book.
Yeah,
And all of his guidance.
and all his guidance and stuff like that. It was basically
Who wrote the book? Did he write the book?
He did it.
He did.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Mein
everything.
Kampf?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything he did was basically very malicious. He didn't care. He just was looking for a superior race.
Oh.
He was looking for the things that he was doing these experiments on with the Jews and stuff like that was just only simply to do it because he was an evil person. You know, like twins. If I go ahead and do this type of pain or inject this twin with this and inject this twin with that, or is it going to be the same outcome? Or if I separate the twin, so
I didn't know he wrote his own book.
Oh,
Yeah, he did. It
Like,
was-
maybe
yeah.
I wouldn't have him for dinner then. I just thought somebody else wrote the book or something like that.
No.
I mean, if
That's
he's
it.
just evil like that, and there's nothing to get out of the experience, and I wouldn't want to have him for dinner. But I guess my point to say was, like, I wouldn't shun anybody away from the table that I could take something away from, whether it be bad or good, and bring it into my experience and kind of learn from that.
I think that's an honorable view. I don't agree with it as far as I'm concerned. For President Trump, I would never have him at my table.
I don't know, like, I don't think either, because I don't know what we would talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be lies.
I mean, you can. If I had to, I think my biggest thing would be, what is the true root of this whole wall that we're spending so much money in? That would be my number one thing, because I can go ahead and say that money can be generated in a lot of different things that is going to go ahead and benefit this country.
But he's still going to talk his nonsense to you anyway. so there's
I
just
understand. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, he talks his nonsense in front of the cameras because he has AIDS and certain things like that. But when he's sitting down at your table, you would hope that he would just go ahead and think he'll be just like he was in The Apprentice. It's just like when he was in his building, he's going to say whatever he wants to go ahead and say because there is rating and is what is truly the case.
I thought he was an idiot then.
No, I'm not saying that
For
it
his
wasn't.
TV show.
It wasn't even an idiot. I would never want him at my table. But I think if I had to ask a question, I just have to understand what the mindset and the infatuation of something so minute of that and closing, Congress down because they wouldn't agree with him because that was a big tip through that whole entire thing. It's just like, why is it that so hard and so heavy on your thing where we could start talking about the NRA and all of these shootings and all of these different things like that? Why are we on that? I think if I had to, that would be a question that I would ask and hope that, being that we're behind closed doors in his private security, he ended up just telling me exactly like, I don't like this or this is the reason why I got beat up by some, whatever. I don't know.
I honestly think that with Trump, what you see is what you get. I really don't think he's a different person behind closed doors. I think he's the exact same person you see at his rallies and everywhere else. So no matter what you asked him, he would give you a bullshit answer.
You really think so?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. He's
I
not a genius. He's not this person who comes
saying
up with these plans.
That's clearly not what I'm saying. He's a genius. I just thought I would think that being that he wouldn't be basically criticized and scrutinized for his thing, he would go ahead and almost like he's talking to his family almost in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Because if his family,
There's so many similarities between him and Hitler that is just...
I was sitting here thinking the same thing.
There are so many similarities.
He's our
version of Hitler. I wonder if it's like a South Park epidemic. You know how they have Mr. Garrison and everything just kind of spiraled out of control, and now he's in this position where he doesn't know what to do but to continue moving forward,
He
doing
doesn't have
more
what it takes to
and
move
more shit.
yeah. And then my last one with him was, why was his fixation so much on Barack Obama, especially when he is president right now?
Because he was a black man.
That's your thought, but I would hope that it was the case if he was sitting at my table and stuff, and I was just like, I want your honest to God truth and stuff like that. What's the fixation of it that you wanted to go ahead and wipe everything away from this president?
You know that movie we talking about with the wines? He would get the bad bomb.
I think it's two things. I think it's two things. I think one, because he was black. Is black, and two, because he was so loved.
Yeah.
So well liked,
And
so
Trump was
well
hated.
respected, and it's something that Trump has been after his entire life and has never gotten it.
Absolutely.
Even now, as president, people laugh at him.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's why he hates them so
Yeah.
much.
Well,
It's
jealousy.
jealousy.
I just would hope, I would think that, if I had to, he would step up to some sort of a plate, just go ahead and say what his true reasoning behind it was. It makes sense what you're saying.
You have too much hope.
No, well, I would never have him there, so that we
Okay.
get that hope.
Well-
But I was just saying, to play off of who we would not.
Yeah, I was just curious just to see who would not ever sit at your table.
Yeah.
So
Yours,
remember,
right? Oh, you said it.
yeah, I've already said it. Just so remember the positive things that we said about our positive people, and I'm glad that we added this little bonus part.
Yeah, I think it's a good.
But
good answer.
it's a great thing.
Yeah.
But remember the positives too.
We originally had 5. Did you guys want to name the other 2 by any chance? We don't have to do like a big spiel, but just throw names out there.
Or we save it for another video. I don't have to. I'd have to think
I
about
do.
it.
I had 2 more.
I do.
All right, ready,
I'm a
ready.
shooting star. I was asked to do something, and I did.
Okay.
Shot for the.
Without going into great detail.
No, I'm just going to name them.
Yeah.
The other one that I ended up having was Warren Buffett
Oh,
and
very
Floyd
good.
and Floyd Mayweather.
Okay.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
My other 2 were Sylvester and LeBron James. Sylvester James and LeBron James.
I had Keanu Reeves, and then the other one
that's a
was.
good one. I would love to meet Keanu.
Oh wow! I forgot who the last one was because I deleted it from my thing. No, I looked them up earlier because I wanted to be kind of prepared. No, one of them was Keanu Reeves, and then
You had
I
Elon
forgot.
Musk too, though.
I did have
I
Elon Musk
took
as
your
well.
Elon Musk.
And you took my
But I had
Yes.
one more other than that too.
White man.
Oh well, Mike, do you have any other 2?
White Ribbons.
Do you have any other 2?
No, I don't. I mean, I would have to think about it, and I don't have them now.
Maybe Matthew McConaughey. All right.
Not for me. You mean for yourself? For me. Oh, okay. All right.
Which I guess you
He
can go
does
take
not
a
like
class.
Matthew
You
McConaughey.
can go take a class
He's a
now.
douche.
How about Idris?
That would be a good lunch. I mean, dinner. Yeah.
Dessert,
So
too.
that would be very interesting.
Dessert. All of the above.
Well, I'm just saying, he's a fascinating person.
He is.
Like I've been driving Lincoln
I find
since
him
before
very
people were
fascinating.
driving
Yeah, I do
Lincolns.
too. Because he's a DJ.
He's a DJ.
He's a DJ. And he's really good.
And again, he's gone from nothing to
Something.
amazing.
I think I liked yours, a lot of yours, and I like a lot of yours. Yours were artistic. Yours were more like people who were like from rags to riches.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That weren't supposed to make it.
Make it, yeah.
In any statistic that you look at them at, they weren't. That's why Floyd Mayweather made mine, because it's like he didn't even finish high school. He
Yeah.
can really read.
Yeah.
He can't really write. But is one of the richest men in the world.
Well, because of his boxing.
Well, because of his boxing.
He doesn't
but
come across as a very intelligent person.
what he portrays on his social media and stuff continuously gets him views and continuously gets people to do the clicks. But if you really look at him as a business person, he said in one of his interviews that he made it a point to meet Warren Buffett to just talk, to really educate himself about business and understanding business. If you look at his portfolio of things that he has outside of boxing and stuff, his portfolio stems from cars to liquor to this. It's all over the place. I was just like, really? He actually owns stakes. I mean, the thing in futuristic, not time travel, but things going to
The Mars?
No, not Mars ships,
Astronaut.
spaceships.
Spaceships, okay.
Yeah, he's actually
Did not know
invested
that.
in that. Yes,
So maybe he's more intelligent than the way he comes across.
yes, absolutely he is, and that's the biggest thing. A lot of his wealth did come from his startup wealth was from boxing, but his portfolio has basically
Because he's going through the money now. I mean,
he's
the way
going
he
through
spends it
the
is-
way he spends it, but what he spends compared to what he makes far outweighs
That's good.
what it is. I mean, when somebody buys a $10 million watch and is looking for another $10 million watch at that point, you're not making peanuts on a monthly end. So
Doesn't he own like a boxing?
He owns a boxing club. Yeah, he owns a whole franchise of boxing, and he's got it all. It's called the Mayweather Club.
Yes.
And then not only that does he do that, he has a bunch of different strip clubs. He has this, but these are minuscule things of where he makes his money at.
The management.
The Money Mayweather
Money
team,
Mayweather,
TNT.
yeah.
Yes.
So and people that even on that end, people that fight underneath his thing was basically like
He has good fighters.
he has awesome fighters, and he kind of looked at it like this: I am going to stop letting the middleman take my money, and I'm going to go ahead and open up this whole conglomerate. That way, I get 100% of the profits. Then,
So, once again, the camera turned off just as we were about to sign off.
Technology.
Get out.
So thank you for joining us today. We hope that you will subscribe so that you get more videos that are just like this one. Leave us a comment below to let's just. How about this? What were your favorite people, and who would you like to have dinner with?
Yeah.
I like that. Yes.
Yes,
Like,
that's
subscribe, comment. Stay tuned for our next episode.
Yes. And live
Your
Yes.
life.
All right.
deuces.
Like. Peace.
All right. That's an easy one.